It's quite a bit we need to run through. I'm going to pick up the pace so that we can actually run through almost the whole case. Projects. Wood does considerable work on with the Forestry Authority of Malin. Forestry Authority offers substantial grants towards planting and for fencing, and we don't see where the grants have gone into our statements, okay, which is not there. So, safe thing to assume, let's just say that it's netted off our expenses, okay. Wood has undertaken projects on behalf of the Forestry Authority of Malin, create amenity forests. Typically, this involves making picnic areas, footpaths, cycle paths in existing forests in order to encourage public to use them for leisure and enjoyment. Moment we start doing this, we want them to use this as a picnic area, for cycling, footpaths. It, number one, needs to be quite secure, right? You can't have some of the visitors being attacked. You can't have a situation where you are cutting down trees right next to it. And imagine children, run a little outside the area and you are cutting trees there. It's a problem. While you are doing all of this, you also need to try and maintain the balance in terms of wildlife, in terms of marine life, because these footpaths and so on might even be areas where there are waterways. So how is it that you work things out? Right? What about the different species of trees? Just because these people actually want to go on picnics and things like that, are you going to be planting trees which are not from that particular area? Just so that the place looks very nice for them to look at and all that, rather than just it looking like a forest. You bring down plants which are not indigenous to that particular area. Could you be doing that sort of thing as well? Now, that sort of thing might mean that the greenery and all that is there, but you're actually having an impact on the wildlife. Because you take species of birds, they will only nest on a particular species of tree. If those species of trees are not there, there's a problem. Right? So it's a very delicate balance you need to maintain. You're trying to make the place look very nice, safe, secure, all of this for the people to visit, but at what cost to the habitat? Already, now because you've read through the case, I can say we are replacing species of trees with SS. What's the justification for it? It grows quickly, which means we can fell more trees. The cycle is shorter. Right? And the side justification we give is, it absorbs more CO2. Okay? But the fact is, we are replacing trees that are indigenous to a particular region by SS. What's the motive behind it, Enderlin? Generating quicker returns. That's it, isn't it? That is the ultimate way of doing that. Are we actually replacing it because we think more CO2 is being absorbed and things like that? Not really. It's because it's going to give us more revenues. So it will come a point where all these trees which are indigenous to a particular region will disappear. All forests will have SS. Right? What happened? It's gone. So these authorities actually do have certain guidelines even on these things, just to ensure that you don't overdo it and you don't just run only behind your profit part of it. Right? There are certain guidelines. We will see that when we look at FSCM. It's there. In their principles, it's there. Okay? Chairman's statement. 2014, company focused on stabilizing its results after a number of difficult years in recession. Company has set its sights on achieving long-term stable returns from activities with steady improvements in key areas to build a strong future forward. I've got a question now. If you go to page 25, I think it is, the financial statement. 20. 19 and 20. So let's say we go to page 19. First page, which is the P&L. Let's say that in 2014, company focused on stabilizing its results after a number of difficult years. What has happened in 2015 to our revenue? Reduced. But I thought we were stabilizing. And we were focusing on long-term stable returns. What's happened to profits in 2015?
Recession.
Gone down. So they're just coming out of recession, which means things should be more stable. Things should pick up now. Not, well, we've gone through recession and we've stabilized and we're going down again.
Consider the macro situations and limitations, they might think that they can continue at 10,000 million level. Because the objective is to maintain the sustainable development.
It is to sustain, but sustain doesn't mean that 2014 they've stabilized. So if they've stabilized, at least the 2014 level should be maintained. That's not happening, it will drop further. So that seems like a bit of a problem. Okay, why is the big question mark? Are we over dependent on certain clients? Are we over dependent on things like construction? Are we over dependent on some of these areas? And are we missing certain opportunities? Biomass, ecotourism, carbon permits. Are those things that will be looked at? Could it be a question to say, oh look, our performance has dropped over the last year. We were supposed to stabilize. What are the different opportunities that we could look at?
There is an indication to the monthly.
One of the articles does link some of these different types of revenue, which we don't have. So what are the different avenues we should explore? And you can start giving them different options. Right? And these are the options that are there in the article. These are the options that we've been talking about right from the very beginning. Back to page 7. The company continued to strengthen its position in the markets and regions where it operates. Wood is gaining international reputation for excellent forest management, which it hopes to enhance in the future. Reputation is a very strong point, it's a strength. This could bring us more clients whose forest we can manage, more revenues. This reputation could also mean more consultancy revenues. Okay? And if you look at the financial statements, we'll probably be able to see what has happened to our percentage of revenues coming from consultancy. It's gone up.
60%.
Gone up from last year?
Yeah, last year.
So things that are probably helping this, certification, the reputation, all this happened. Okay? All we need to mess this up is if we mismanage one of the client's forests, and that client sues us or makes a big noise about it, can be a problem. Or we lose our certification. Will clients want us to manage their forest for them? Maybe not. So think of the certification. What are the different types of revenues it's affecting them? Okay? It's not just the revenue you get by managing the forest and felling trees. There's a lot more to it. Okay? Volatility in the US dollar against the M dollar caused us some problems over the last year. It is hoped that economic uncertainties that led to this will settle down. Not a very nice statement. You're hoping rather than doing something about it. We shouldn't be hoping things will be okay. We should be looking at methods we can manage this, which means we faced a foreign exchange risk and we were not prepared for it. Are we prepared for it now? No, it seems like we're praying to God. Okay? So, foreign exchange, foreign currency risk management needs to be focused on.
Influence the output in US dollar.
Okay.
So is there any effect from foreign exchange in the revenue? The revenue has significant contract.
Okay.
Is there any effect of foreign exchange?
Conversion rate, actually that is the conversion rate.
So you'll have a separate foreign exchange gain or loss. You will do the conversion on the date of sale. After that, you will have a separate foreign exchange gain or loss depending on when they pay.
If they transfer their revenue figure from US dollar to M dollar, then it might also fall down.
See, what's happening is when you make the sale on that date, whatever the exchange rate exists, that's what you convert. But obviously, you're giving a certain amount of credit. When they pay you, there can be a forex gain or loss. That's the exchange gain or loss that we're talking about. If it is cash, then really there's minimum risk there. Whatever rate on that date, you get done. So this business will involve credit, and we see the receivables there as well. So there will be a forex gain or loss. And do you see a forex gain or loss mentioned anywhere? Okay. Look, I'll keep it very simple. There are going to be a lot of open ends in terms of your financial statements because you're not required to overanalyze the financial statements. CIMA tests all these knowledge of standards and things like that at operational level and management level. Right? So grants, forex gain or loss not being there, I wouldn't be breaking my head over it. It's not there, fine, I won't be tested on it. Right? So I shouldn't overanalyze it. I'm just telling you, okay, it's not there, so please don't overanalyze it. Right? Because that's supposed to be analyzed at a lower level where they test the details of your IFRS knowledge. You're not required to know that here, so we just don't overanalyze it. Right? Meaning you're not going to see a question to say, oh look, have they followed the correct accounting treatment? Can you please recommend the proper accounting treatment? You won't see that. That is not a strategic level question. Okay? The company has built on its strengths and has now management of all of its forests accredited. Very, very important. It's not a majority of forests. It's not some of the forests. All the forests are accredited. Did I skip it? You read that? Walter? You read that they need to work on foreign currency risk management that they need to work on. We'll see that in the risk management page as well. But overall, so they've got all their forests accredited, which is a good sign. Meaning we probably work very, very closely with FSCM. We've got a good rapport with them. We've got all our forests accredited, which means chances of getting future business, even if we move into a new country, chances of getting accreditation, all of these are very high. So at the moment, things look very positive in terms of the accreditation front. But we ensure this stays that way. We don't want to breach any of their principles and lose the accreditations. We'll be very careful about it. Right? God has engaged in some new planting projects over the past year, which have all gone well. The most stable weather during the winter meant we did not have much wind blow and did not have to replant many areas. This is an obvious risk that you have as a forestry management company. Weather. Bad weather, if you had a really bad winter, you'd have to replant quite a few of the areas. But they say good weather basically meant we didn't have to replant many of the areas. But that is a risk that we run. Can we control it? To a very large extent, no. We can't control the weather. Okay? But something I also mentioned, since Wood is engaged in some new planting projects over the past year, it's not something which is not done before. Techniques like PCA, post-completion audits, will definitely help Wood. They can learn from their past experiences, whether it is amenity woodlands or planting parts of the forest. These are things they've done before. Okay, so they should have conducted PCAs, they should learn from this. So there are certain things that go according to plan, certain things that don't go according to plan. Okay, so if they know what has not gone according to plan, they can ensure those things are fixed with future projects. So what I'm telling you is basically what should have already conducted PCAs. If they haven't, they should start. So that's one of those topics you'll see from F3, right? Post-completion audits. The increase in house building and construction has seen an increase in demand for timber, and what has benefited from this and from the increase in timber prices due to this demand. This has helped to sustain the profits that were so welcome last year. Is this chairman dreaming?
Yes. How it does. If revenue drop.
How have we sustained profits? Haven't profits fallen this year?
Yeah.
And what makes matters worse, construction seems to be picking, price of timber has gone up, but our revenue has fallen.
Yes.
And we are now more dependent on consultancy, which means the income from the forestry management part of it is dropping. Seems like a bit of a rubbish statement. There's something not right. It doesn't match up with the statements we have. So not everything given to you by the chairman might be correct. Okay? Questionable. Forestry Authority in Maryland commended our efforts to increase the sustainability of our forests by replanting areas we have harvested with fast-growing SS, Silica spruce. We have improved our carbon storage by 3% in 2014. This was greater than expected. So, we have a carbon storage target which we have exceeded thanks to planting SS. SS grows faster, younger trees, better absorption, all of this is definitely going to contribute. But more importantly, we have replaced some of the areas or replanted some of the areas with fast growing SS. Our dependence on SS is increasing. Okay? If there is some type of disease that spreads to these trees, we are at high risk. Because we are not having 10, 15 different species of trees now. We are going to depend a lot on SS because it grows fast and all of that. We replant, we have more SS. There is a bit of a risk there. Are we putting all our eggs in one basket? Or to be specific, one type of tree? We entered into 2 projects last year, assisting the Forestry Authority to improve amenity forests in the north of Maryland. These projects were completed during the year and have resulted in 40% increase in visitors to the forests. The cycle tracks and picnic areas have been especially popular. So cycle tracks, picnic areas, remember, if all this is happening, we have a lot of visitors coming in. There are certain standards that need to be maintained. If these visitors are coming in, they're going to probably bring their children. You'll see a lot of old people coming in, green area, picnics, walking about. Safety becomes critical. Can we be cutting down trees right next to it?
This is especially in the amenity forest. My understanding that amenity forest is somehow it is
in a separate location? No, it's not. No, it's not. It wouldn't be a separate location. It would be, you have an overall forest, part of it gets designated for this purpose. Right? So in and around it, maybe not inside, but around it we'll be still harvesting. And here's the risk.
Sudden outbreak of fire can also create the issues.
Sudden fire, even us just going ahead with our normal logging activities can be a problem. Because in this era where everyone likes to take legal action against everyone, you might see some of these older people saying, oh, they cut down trees 100 feet away from us and we suffered emotional distress. Or parents might file a case to say, look, they were cutting down trees, the noise was so high, it affects our youngsters.
It was the cardiac arrest.
And this was already there. Proposal already completed during the year.
Yeah.
40%
Increase in visitors.
Yes.
So more people coming in.
Project is completed during the year. During the year.
During the year we completed a couple of projects. Yeah. So we completed a couple of projects, more visitors are coming in. So safety becomes a very, very important aspect, especially in and around this. Unless we want to suffer or pay for litigation and things like that. Okay? The last few years have been challenging for wood. However, we believe the long-term fundamentals are in place for wood to deliver its goal of steady long-term returns on its investments, which it can pass on to for the benefit of shareholders. They say things are now in place where they can pass on returns to shareholders. They're definitely passing on returns to shareholders this year. You look at dividends, massive dividend. Page 19 again. Page 19. Check out our net profit. Check out how much we are paying out as a dividend. And just to put things in perspective, there's a bit of a gain in your financial statement, which you would not normally see in a normal company. What's that? Technology. Okay. You've got this unrealized gains on biological assets 1108. Remove that from your net profit. Now think of the dividend you're paying. You're paying more dividends than your realized gains. All I'm telling you is all it takes is some type of disease or forest fire or something. What happens to your unrealized gains? It's gone. And you have paid to shareholders more returns than the gains that have actually materialized. This is a good strategy that they are following.
They treat from the retained earnings, which have been accumulated for the.
And if you look at, the retained earnings, it's not very large because the retained earnings brought forward is only 2928. It's very small.
Take out that 1108.
Yeah.
Then your realized profit
So
can be enough to pay the dividend which has been given.
If you take out the
1108 from your total retained earnings.
Oh, you mean from the retained earnings? Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, what you're doing is then you're actually paying dividend out of your retained earnings. You're not paying dividends out of this year's profit, realized profits. That's not what's happening, which is not healthy. It is actually not healthy.
So low, your investment in plant and property is so low. You're not investing and you're paying out and you're talking about paying very stable and long-term return.
So imagine now, this is what the chairman is saying. Oh, look, they're going to pay long-term returns, stable long-term returns. Shareholders will expect a dividend of 3,828 or above the next year. Is that okay?
Yes.
Can we pay? Is my big question. Can we keep going at this rate? Maybe they've done this because last few years were not good, and just to keep the shareholders happy, we paid a large dividend. But once you do that, there is this signaling effect. Shareholders will now expect we want this dividend next year as well. You said we are stable, give it the same thing. So there's a lot of messes that they've created in and around their financial statements.
We don't know the share price.
We have no idea about the share price. You might be dropped a bomb at the exam to say, oh look, share price was from 2014 to 15, it fell, and suddenly it went up. Can you give me reasons why this happened? Dividends. Could simply be dividends. Okay? So So maybe it's a strategy they've used to pick up share price. You never know. But is it sustainable in the long run? Doesn't look like it. Your forest might be sustainable, your business doesn't seem to be.
That might be part of their strategy to sell their shares or to merge with any other company.
Maybe if we are being bought over by someone.
Yes, that's what they're trying to
Jack up the share price, yeah.
of their shares.
Yeah.
Because Darren is in a very driving position as far as the industry is concerned. Turnover is higher, and if you analyze their financials, they are giving positive indication.
Gearing is dropping.
And
Yeah. So we look at the financial statements. We look at that. Okay, we finished page 7, so I'm going to run through it. The next couple of pages, very little information, a lot of nice diagrams and things like that, so it helps me run through it faster. Sustainability. One's investment objective is to invest in assets which can be established and managed on an environmentally and socially sustainable basis. We have invested in forests and have emphasized sustainability in all aspects of their management, including ensuring that responsible harvesting of trees does not exceed the ability of the land to regenerate itself once replanted. So all very nice to mention. Okay, it's very nice to put it on paper. Can we practice what we are preaching here?
Seems to be political statements.
These are nice statements for the authorities to see, and but if you want profits, which way should you be heading? You see, best practice for forest management. Have we got it? Looks like we have it because we've got all the accreditations. Commitment to stakeholders. Looks like you might be committed to some of the stakeholders, but you're ignoring your shareholders. FSCM accreditation, got it for all the forests we manage. Renewable energy. I don't see a thing to it. But it's part of. So maybe it's something we should get into. Could this be an indication the examiner is giving us to say, I'm going to question you on this? Leading employment practices. Are working for generations. Pretty much like, let's say, one of the US companies, it's a shocking company actually, Harley Davidson. They actually have 3 generations of the family working in their companies. Okay? Bikers. So, biodiversity, there you go. So you need to be careful with how you manage your forests overall. Transparent governance. Very vague, isn't it? Transparent governance. What do? Have a board meeting in public, or what exactly they're talking about? How is it that we are achieving this transparent governance? We don't know. Carbon neutral. Well, we should definitely be carbon neutral by default. By default, we will be carbon neutral. In fact, we should be absorbing more CO2 than the emissions we're making. Some of these we've already got. Some of these, absolutely nothing mentioned about it, like renewable energy. Okay, the so-called carbon neutral or carbon permits or anything like that, absolutely nothing mentioned of it. Right? So there's a little bit to look forward to, but know that this is there as part of their overall statement. Right? So when you're writing answers, make sure that you can link it to this, to say, oh yeah, this was part of their statement that they made. Okay? So it's in line with that. So if they get into, let's say, biomass, it's not something that's outside their scope. Yeah, it was mentioned as part and parcel of their model. So yeah, we're just going into that. It's perfectly fine. Okay? Social responsibility. Sustainability is a key factor in all investment decisions. We aim to manage our forests to the highest standards. Expectation is that wood will be a net planter of trees, with the number of living trees increasing over time in all of our forests. How many times have we seen this? We're getting sick and tired of this now. We are a net planter. Very good. We aim to obtain all existing accreditation for responsible and sustainable forest management, and always aim to exceed all industry and regulatory standards. Yeah, Yeah, we've already got the necessary accreditations, fine. Exceed regulatory standards. It's a target. It is a target, but exceed by how much? So I wouldn't go to the extent of calling these objectives, okay? They're goals, definitely. Because you can exceed it by 0.0001%. Or exceed it by 5% if you want. Right? So these are more goals than objectives that they've mentioned. For clear and constructive dialogue with local communities and other stakeholders. We are proud of our achievements and are keen to communicate this as widely as possible. Clear dialogue with local communities. This is a must. This is an absolute must that you talk to the people who live in and around the areas, get their feedback. Otherwise, you will not be able to run your business. If they start going against you, they start protesting or they start complaining, you are in big, big trouble. You will not be able to work. Okay? So this is an absolute must, but I don't like this last line. Keen to communicate this as widely as possible. We are proud of our achievements, keen to communicate this as widely as possible, which means any good thing, it will be on your website, it will be on your communication, everywhere. Any rotten thing that you do, it's swept under the carpet.
Yeah, that's the shareholder.
So your aim is to communicate all the good things that you do. If this statement said, we are keen to communicate, all interactions or all aspects, then it makes sense. Not just your achievements. Are they being 100% transparent? Are they really being objective in their reporting? Question mark. In fact, let me just suggest this. I'm sure all of you are aware of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, BP, British Petroleum. If you actually go onto the British Petroleum website, it's all green. The website is completely green. You start thinking, my God, is this an oil company or is it actually into forests? And believe it or not, these guys have the nerve to actually go ahead and say that they do all these positive things towards the environment and things like that. It's going to take that's not too bad. Even their logo is in green. They will talk about social responsibility on their website, they'll talk about all this sustainability. Look at this. My goodness. Sustainability. Safety, environment, society. All they did was destroy the livelihood of so many different people in the Gulf of Mexico. Those who are into oyster farming and those who are into fishing, gone. The industry is completely gone in that region. There are thousands of people who are still suffering from, skin ailments and things like that because of the oil spill. But do you see any of that? You start looking at their website. They seem to be a wonderful company. Look at this. You see all the positives. Somewhere there in a small way with a negative impact they created as well. That's the only place you'll see that. And that also oil spill response, okay? And they will talk about all the things they did to sort the problem out. Is this the sort of communication that we are looking at? And are we going to call ourselves transparent by doing this? To combine sound economic stewardship with our stewardship of natural resources, you can't do both. It's a very difficult balance to strike. You want profits for shareholders, cut down all the trees you can. You want to maintain the natural resources, don't cut down trees. It's a very difficult balance to strike. Can I pose this question? Have they gone over the limit and actually tried to worry more about the environment and therefore face the reduction in revenues? It's a possibility. It is a possibility. This would make shareholders very, very unhappy. Yes, shareholders will like to say, oh, we've invested in a company which is, into sustainable practices, they are very ethical, they are doing all this well, but at the end of the day, they also need the return. So have we overdone it, or are we unable to strike the right balance? We provide shareholders with sustainable dividends and capital growth while ensuring that we do not do so at significant environmental cost. So they're very clear here. I like the statement made here. Do not do so at significant environmental cost. They're not saying do not do so at no environmental cost. It's not significant environmental cost. There are possible, but it's not that high. You can live with it. Okay? So at least they seem to accept, yeah, there is an environmental cost involved, but it's not excessive. Okay? Our strategy and objectives. I find, I'm not sure, I'll take your comments as well, I find these too vague to be objectives. Although it says strategy and objectives, our mission is to be the world leader in sustainable forestry management. Very good, nice dream to have. Long-term strategy continues to be provide stable long-term returns to investors. Doesn't look like it's happening from the information we have. Be the preferred supplier of raw wood-based material to a broad customer base. Could happen with our certifications. Be the leading player in forest industry regarding environmental and social conduct. Could happen again based on our accreditations and things like that. Expand existing and develop new large-scale projects. Could it be focusing on market development as well? Could we be looking at new countries as well? Take our expertise to new countries. And develop existing projects. So can we expand our existing projects? More amenity woodlands, more forests being managed in our existing areas. Yeah? Seek new ways of working to improve sustainability of forests in the future. How can we improve sustainability of the forests in the future? So we look at new ways of doing things. New ways of doing things will mean more investments. See, a lot of these companies which are into forestry management, they also invest quite heavily to come up with new species of plants. And some of them are not natural, they are genetically engineered. Okay? They spend a lot of money researching whether they can develop the perfect tree which will not suffer any of these diseases, which will not be subject to these insect infestations. They're spending a lot of money on it. It's like companies spending so much of money to try and develop the perfect human being. Right? So there's a lot of research being done as well. Do I see that in our statements, in the information given? Doesn't seem like it.
Not any research.
Doesn't seem like anything's there. Okay? But it's important going forward. Code of conduct. Stakeholders. We work with all our stakeholders, ensuring woodlands and forests meet the needs of present and future society. So we should effectively have a very close relationship with all our stakeholders, including the general community, the employees, the customers, suppliers, everyone. Respect. We value our colleagues and our stakeholders, valuing diversity, treating everyone with consideration. Let's put it this way. Diversity. When it comes to employment, are you employing people from different communities? What percentage of your workforce is female? If you think that females don't work in this industry, you've not been far from the truth. Okay? Not just the directors, but yeah, the composition of the board. Yeah, that's another thing that needs to be looked at. But what about the female representation? And there are quite a few females working in this industry. Not a large percentage, obviously. I wouldn't say it's 50-50, but there are females. Are we discriminating against them and saying, oh, look, you can't do the job, forget about it? Bangladeshi cabinet, how many females are there?
I think it's more. Maybe in terms of number, not in terms of administration.
Percentage wise?
10%.
About 10. Canada 50% female.
10%, more than 50.
More than 50.
10 is the result. 36 the result of the paper.
Okay, so it's more than 10%.
4%.
So Canada 50% female. They're one of the first countries to actually get into sustainable forest management. One of the first. Right? So, what's the balance that we have? You could be given a scenario to say, oh look, there's a very small percentage of females on our workforce, and we need new lumberjacks, and HR has mentioned that they don't want females on the workforce. You have an ethical issue. Okay? You have something going directly against these principles that we mentioned here, our code of conduct, and you can mention it. This goes directly against our code of conduct. Okay? Which shows that you know the precinct, that you're using the precinct, which is another common complaint by the examiner, that a lot of students write general answers. Yes, they know that, there's sex discrimination, there's, not equal representation, but why can't you link it to the case and say, look, this goes against our code of conduct, which says that we respect our colleagues and that we value diversity. It goes against all this. Now, I've linked it to the case. I've linked it specifically to women. That gives you marks. Okay?
But difficult also for women.
It is very difficult. It is very difficult.
But there are other ones. Suppose lumberjack may be difficult, but fencing and this.
And not just that, operating the machinery. They're just sitting in the machine and just, you saw what the machine was. That's not too difficult. And there are women lumberjacks as well. So there are a couple of links I need to share with you in terms of videos. You'll be shocked. We need to think differently compared to our normal Asian mindset. Here, we have very few, if any, female drivers of buses. And do you have any female drivers of buses here? In the UK, would you believe it, that people actually trust female drivers of buses more than the males? In their narrow roads and things like that, to ensure that they will not go and smash another vehicle or whatever, people actually trust female drivers more. I will guarantee you, back home in Sri Lanka, if it's a female driver, I keep at least 10 feet distance from that vehicle. Because our people, they are just given the license. If you're a female, you're basically given the license, and if they are to take a turn here, they come there and take the turn. So, at least 10 feet away, or at least make sure I toot the horn as loud as possible, because they stop. They just get so afraid, they stop. So we peacefully drive and they start and come again. So it's the mindset. Here they say, they're horrible drivers, forget about it. Europe, they'll say they're the ones we'll trust. Okay? So we need to have a bit of a change in our mindset as well, the way we think of it. So they do this work. And you have the big bulky women who will actually do this type of work. You have the bodybuilders and so on as well. They're happy to do this. Women firefighters and so on. We wouldn't even think about it. Forget about it. You can't do this. Sometimes they perform better than men. That's reality. Professional behavior. We act with integrity, objectivity, to to achieve high standards of health and safety, quality and sustainability in everything we do. So we are unbiased, we are honest in everything that we do, and high standards of health and safety. This is a very, very important aspect in our industry. Health and safety is a very, very big risk we face in this industry. Again, a couple of things I need to share. This is about the logging industry over the last century, and it talks about how frequently people used to die in the industry. Because all it takes is one small mistake. You cut down a tree and you expect, based on how you cut it, you expect it to fall in a particular direction. Slight mistake and it falls in a different direction, you could be killing lots of people, lots of your fellow workers. Working hours, it's a very physical job. Imagine asking these guys who work 8 hours a day to work 10 hours a day. Because you might think it's just 2 hours, come on. It's very difficult. If you're too tired and you do the wrong thing for a split second, you're not just putting your life in danger, you're putting so many other people in danger. And certain areas are so remote that these logs are actually airlifted. They are airlifted. Okay? So the job of the lumberjacks would be to cut down the trees, okay, and then attach it to a helicopter. And that video will show testimonials by the pilots as well to say it's a very risky job. They do, I think, 45-minute cycles or whatever. That's how long the fuel lasts. But a strong crosswind would basically mean, because you've got logs attached to your helicopter, and a strong crosswind would mean that you're done. You can't control it. So it is a very, very dangerous industry. Make no mistake about it. Okay? Yes, there is technology that has come in. Yes, now we can access more areas of the forest, but there are still very steep, very, very dangerous areas where these trucks and so on cannot access. So how do you get the logs off those areas? You airlift it. And we don't think of those things. Right, so there's a side to this industry which we haven't seen. It'll give you the whole history from how in the past they used to just ensure that the logs are put into water, right, the rivers, and it goes downstream, and you've got your paper mills and so on downstream. So you're not transporting it by trucks. You use the river to take care of it. And there are people who are basically working on the logs to ensure that it goes downstream properly. Right? And sometimes these things get blocked. People need to sort that out as well. If they fall, they get crushed by the logs. Okay? So it's a very dangerous industry, and we need to have proper safety standards. Okay? Those things worked in the 1900s. Now if we try to do the same thing, we'll be sued. And to the extent, just an example so that you realize how serious things are. This was a UK-based company. They needed to do some cleaning of their business, their overall premises. It was a factory, I believe, and they outsourced it. Got a cleaning company to come and do the work. Their roof was quite thin, right? The roof was quite thin, so it was not something which put people standing on the roof, right? And they mentioned this to the cleaning company as well. They mentioned it to the cleaning company to say, look, you can't get your workers to stand on the roof. So they need to have scaffolding separately so that they can clean the roof, the building and all that. The cleaning company then employed people, and one guy was actually on the roof. He fell and died. Legal action was taken by the family, and judge awarded damages against the cleaning company and the company that outsourced the cleaning job. Right? Cleaning company had to pay damages because they take the necessary safety procedures. Company that did the outsourcing had to pay damages because they did not check to see whether the cleaning company were following the safety procedures. That's how serious it can be. So we can't say, oh look, okay, they're outsourcing this, let someone else take care of it, and someone dies, you're still in trouble. You need to check to see that they are following the safety guidelines you've given them. Right? So it is that serious. Okay? Learning and development. We are always learning, developing the skills and knowledge to support the company. I do not see where you're spending that money. It's a nice statement again. We are always learning. Good. Developing skills, knowledge. So I want it. So you should be doing research. I don't see that part of it. Communication. We are open and honest with colleagues and with our stakeholders. Again, it's a very nice statement. If you're so open and honest, I don't think you would have declared such a large dividend. If you're really looking at sustainability and long-term growth of the company, I honestly don't think, it's my opinion, I don't think you would have declared such a large dividend. If you're so honest, your shareholders would have understood that going for long-term growth will mean that they need to sacrifice part of the dividend at least. Something's not matching up. Okay? Communication. Environment. We seek to protect the environment for the enjoyment of both people and wildlife in the future. It's a funny statement. Enjoyment of wildlife. Enjoyment of people, yeah, enjoyment of wildlife, yeah, that's the place they live. It's not that they're enjoying. And it's a very difficult thing to balance out. If you're going to ensure enjoyment of people, you are going to negatively affect wildlife. How many videos have we seen, of animals dying because they've eaten plastic bags or polythene or something like that, which is bound to happen. Which is bound to happen because people, our mindset is always, society is everyone else except us. Yeah? We'll see lots of garbage being dumped and all of that, we'll complain about it, we'll go and dump garbage there as well. But say, why did people do this? It's so wrong. Right? So, the last one is a very difficult balance to strike because we have to accept if people are enjoying, animals are suffering. Wildlife is suffering. Okay? Both can't enjoy. Stakeholder engagement. More about the stakeholders. We spoke about actively involving stakeholders and things like that, getting their feedback. So, let's see. Communities in Maran trust us. This is the foundation of our business. So trust, yeah, okay, very important. We have built up trust by integrating corporate social responsibility and sustainability into the way we run our company. Make no mistake, employing locals is not corporate social responsibility. Okay? Doing a bit of development so that the workers or the local community can access the forest so that they can get to work faster is not corporate social responsibility. You're actually looking after yourself. But that's what a lot of companies go and do. Right? They'll do a few developments. For example, now let's say you have a local community. They need to come into the forest to cut the trees. You ensure that there is a proper transport system or something like that from their community to the forest. How is that corporate social responsibility? Aren't you looking at your interest, not the society? If you develop the transport in the whole area, yeah, that's corporate social responsibility. If you're educating, if you're helping educate, some of the youngsters in the area or something like that, yeah, that's okay. But what most companies will do is they will ensure that, again, they will provide some type of education linked to forestry. Why? So that the next generation can come and work for them. But of course, they will go to town calling it corporate social responsibility. Look at what we are giving back to society. Right? So, talking about the wider picture, but of course companies do it, so let's accept it and move on. we have incorporated 10 principles into our working practices. These encourage responsible behavior in the areas of the environment, anti-corruption, our workforce, and human rights. So that's on page 23. I just quickly run to page 23. You don't have to flip your pages, you can just look at the screen, or else it becomes a mess. 10 principles of FSCM. It is not a coincidence that this has 10 principles and FSCM has 10 principles. Okay? It is not a coincidence. For those of you who want to make a comparison, enjoy. It's more or less a copy paste. Okay? Not that the examiners have come up with this, they've just taken it off this. It's the same thing. See all the points there? Right, so it's the same thing. Absolutely nothing else, it just copy paste it, that's all. Right?
Slightly to the sentence.
Copyright issues. Okay. Our sustainable forestry management practices are long-term investments, building value for our company and for society of Mala. We have strict targets that we strive to achieve on carbon storage and are now in surplus when we take into account our harvesting and transport emissions. We had 3%. Yeah, so that's where we are. We aim to make our forests and woodlands attractive and healthy places that can be visited and enjoyed. We offer basic facilities such as woodland parks, picnic sites, and cycle tracks. We locate these away from areas where timber is being harvested so that visitors are safe at all times. So this shows that they're not different. Okay, it's the same woodland actually split into maybe a small part which is for the amenity woodlands or forests, and then you have your felling going on as well. And notice what they say, we locate these away from areas where timber is being harvested so that visitors are safe at all times. Usually these companies have certain regulatory requirements they need to meet. There are certain acceptable levels, noise levels. Again, Asia, we don't care. Honestly, we don't care. Most of the drivers are eternally on their horns, right? And the horns as well will have so many different noises just to ensure that you give the person in front of you a hard time. Right? To take Europe, if someone actually toots their horn, everyone will stop, turn and look. Okay? And safety is taken very, very seriously. For example, if they have a road that they are working on, probably about 1 kilometer away, there will be signs to say men at work. And if they've dug a hole or whatever, that will be completely blocked out. Right? You'll have these cones, you'll have all the other barriers, everything, and these fellows will work inside, they know that they are safe. Out here. You'll see a few people working there with slippers or whatever, no sign saying that there is work being done, right? Absolutely no safety precautions taken. In fact, there, if you have sand, surplus sand which you put, that gets blocked out as well. You'll see yellow tape and everything which is marked out. Here we dump sand wherever we want, and drivers are supposed to, somehow get around it. So that's not the standard we are talking about here. Okay, there are legally allowed levels of noise. When our equipment works, there is a lot of noise. You need to factor that in. Legally, there will be certain limits to say, look, maybe 50 feet or 100 feet away from these amenity woodlands, you cannot fell trees, which we need to abide by. Otherwise, we are breaking the law. Sometimes we are not breaking the law. We are, let's say, 150 feet away, but still it might be very noisy. Then it comes down to the ethical aspect. Are we doing the right thing? Or should we take precautions like, for example, give prior notice to the visitors to say, look, on these days we're going to shut down these paths because we need to do the felling. Or we do the felling at points when these people won't visit. Mind you, felling goes on even in winter. Okay? They don't stop because it's winter. They still do cut down trees. Okay, so lumberjacks have a very difficult time. We actively seek to improve the environment by sustainable planting while improving the return to our shareholders. We've seen this again many times. Giving returns to shareholders while of course being a net planter of trees. So before we proceed any further, let's look at it. Not sure what happens to this all the time. Great. Where have my videos gone? Somehow I am not sure how this has happened, but the videos have disappeared.
Canada's magnificent forests, an ocean of trees that scrape the sky and stretch out from coast to coast. A living, breathing storehouse of plants and animals that provide a wealth of resources for our survival and well-being. Canadians simply love our forests and want to keep them forever. There's a lot to love. Canada holds 10% of the world's forest cover and 30% of all boreal forest. That's more than 400 million hectares of forest and other woodland. 4 million Canadians live and work in the forests. Some 900,000 hectares are harvested every year. But that's less than 1% of the land available for commercial forest activities. That's partly because of Canada's forest laws. An independent study by Yale University Associate Professor Benjamin Kishore shows that Canada has emerged as a world leader in aggressively improving its practices in sustainable forest management.
There is no question that the Canadian industry has been highly proactive on forest efforts. The Canadian forest products industry is extremely innovative in requiring all of its companies to be certified according to one program or the other on its forest lands.
Canada's forest sector has made sweeping changes to the way it operates. There are new methods of managing ecosystems to ensure they support healthy wildlife populations. Biodiversity must, by law, be protected. Rivers and streams must be buffered from tree cutting. Special consideration must be made for soils so that they're not eroded. Roads and bridges must be constructed to high standard to ensure that there's no damage to fish habitats. Communities are involved in every region, from coastal rainforests to the boreal northlands. It means that people talk to governments and industry about how they want the forest developed and preserved. The public values its right to influence what goes on in their forests. Canadians are heard directly through a variety of public participation programs set up by provincial governments. A number of provinces have enacted forest protection acts that channel public input to shape the highest standard for forest sustainability in the world. In short, ethical forest decisions must incorporate the views of all Canadians and respect Aboriginal and treaty rights. Canada openly welcomes other countries to compare.
Forest Professionals Code of Ethics is that we're not only responsible to what we do and ethical in what we do, but we're responsible to the public, which is really key. We're also responsible to our employer and to our clients. And we're responsible to the land to ensure that what we're doing is good for now and for the future.
20 years ago, Canada became the first country in the world to develop a national forest strategy under the direction of the Canadian Council of Forest Ministers. The strategy guides Canadians in ongoing work to sustainably manage forests. The values addressed include timber, wildlife habitat, water quality, recreation, and biodiversity. Forests are part of the people. They have played a huge role in the European settlement of Canada and its development into a great nation. Forests are essential to our health and to the health of the world. Forests produce fresh air, filter water, store carbon, and safely house plant and animal species. Canadians understand the richness of this legacy and our global responsibility. Canada's state-of-the-art harvesting techniques mirror its improved standards of practice. A common method that is right for Canada is clear cutting. It's suited to the ecology of most forest sites in Canada, with results similar to natural disturbances such as wildfire or windstorms. Other harvesting techniques, such as shelter wood or retention systems, are used when there is a need to maintain a wildlife habitat or to protect scenic vistas. About 1/5 of Canada's logs and pulpwood come from private woodlots and forests. They also provide, under provincial guidelines, maple sugar, fuel wood, and Christmas trees. And let's not forget fun and recreation. Canada is a trading nation. Forest products are big business, crucially important to this country's economy. Exports are valued now at more than $44 billion a year. In 2004, Canada exported more forest products than any country in the world. The forest industry employs 920,000 people. That's almost 6% of Canada's entire workforce. Amazingly, the industry's footprint is smaller than ever because companies must return cut sites to healthy forests After all, forest-related tourism is also a multi-billion-dollar industry in Canada. Canada's forests are diverse. They sustainably produce a wide range of quality products, including softwood lumber, newsprint, wood pulp, and engineered wood products. Those wood products are backed by a national grading and standard system. So house builders from Tokyo to Rotterdam know the great qualities of Canadian wood. Our biggest export markets are the United States, Japan, the European Union, and China. With so many customers around the world, it's no wonder that Canada has the highest amount of land certified for voluntary, market-based forest certification programs. That means buyers of Canadian wood know the product comes from forests that are managed on sound environmental practices. The three systems used in Canada are the Canadian Standard Association, the Forest Stewardship Council, and the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. By January 2006, Canada had about 120 million hectares of land certified by third-party auditors. That's an area more than twice the size of France, and it's growing every year. Certification is all important in today's user market. One of Canada's largest lumber customers is Mitsui Homes, Japan's biggest home builder.
Canada, so there are bountiful forest resources, and it's well managed, and it's certified by a sustainable forest management program.
It is the power of the consumer that drives the wood market. More and more, those consumers want to buy from companies that practice good wood. That means certification. And Canada is clearly the world leader in third-party certified wood. Our products represent the best environmental choice for customers around the world. Canada achieves this through cutting-edge scientific research. Our scientists study the physiology of old-growth forests. New solutions are being sought for pest control. As well, researchers are developing new technologies for fast-growth forests and innovative approaches to regeneration. Our pulp and paper industry is a global leader in waste paper recovery and has had remarkable success in reducing energy costs and greenhouse gas emissions. Wildfire plays a critical role in the natural life of the forests. But when fire has to be fought, Canada has state-of-the-art capabilities. Every year, fires burn millions of hectares of trees, threatening people and property. Canada's Eye in the Sky, RadarSat, provides firefighting teams with remote sensing data to locate and identify burning fires at low cost. RadarSat also provides researchers with detailed images, such as this one, from the firestorm surrounding Kelowna, British Columbia in 2003. Canada's leadership in sustainable forest management goes far beyond its own borders. Canada is a founding member of the Montreal Process. It was created in 1994 to implement internationally negotiated rules on the conservation of temperate and boreal forests. Canada is also an active participant in the United Nations Forum on Forests, which promotes the sustainable development of all types of forests. One example of Canada's true diversity is the Model Forest Program, which fostered the International Model Forest Network. The program is a living laboratory where new ideas emerge in forest management. Model Forests brings together organizations with diverse views on how forests should be managed. In a spirit of collaboration, they develop innovative approaches to sustainability. For example, the Foothills Model Forest Program is studying the effects of development on grizzly bears to ensure they have the habitat they need. More than 800 Aboriginal communities are located in Canada's forests. More than 1 million hectares of reserve lands are suitable for forestry, hunting, trapping, and fishing. Over the past decade, some 1,700 forestry projects have been funded by the First Nations Forestry Program. It helps combine new concepts and technologies with traditional skills. One example of innovation in this area is the partnership with Aboriginal people, which ensures that ecosystem-based forestry is practiced on the ground in Northern Labrador. The Indian Nation and the Newfoundland and Labrador Department of Natural Resources form a unique partnership to implement a strategic forest management plan that will help to enhance cross-cultural understanding and traditional knowledge of Newfoundland and Labrador's ecosystems.
We have just the same decision-making power as the province does. in the kind of forest management that occurs. So that means deciding how much harvesting, deciding annual value cuts. That's normally left to provincial governments. We have a say in that. Deciding on the kind of research projects that are undertaken in our area. It's a unique partnership, and it allows us to really have a say in the kind of management that occurs, and it ensures that our culture will live forever.
Sustainable forest management means all the stakeholders, including industry, are on the same page.
One example that association we've been pushing is third-party certification, which basically brings together all those values related to water conservation, wildlife habitat conservation, forest management, forest regeneration, and so on. And third-party certification is commissioner membership.
Canada's sustainable forests are supported by world-class management practices. We've learned to protect our forest land, to study it, to harvest it, and to regenerate it. Canadians are sensitive to biodiversity. We prize all the creatures that live amongst the trees. We set standards and certification that are second to none. We've listened to our own people and heard the voices of experts in other nations. But most of all, Canadians have listened to their hearts. We love them.
Get a better idea of how things work? Yeah, so forests don't just come with the trees, they come with the animals, and when you talk about amenity woodlands or amenity forests, how do you segregate it? How do you get it from that area, make it safe for the people? There is a cost to the wildlife. There is an effect. And they spoke about how they get the Aboriginals' ideas. And they said what research is undertaken. They communicate what type of research they think should be undertaken. So that's how closely they work with the community. We've got all those points here, but the fact is we need to know, is it just on paper or do we actually do it? Do we practice it? Okay? And with sustainable forest management, that is part and parcel of how things are supposed to work. Right? So, again, links to these videos I will provide so that you can go through it anytime. This is why I said you can read 10 pages of notes or whatever, but this still gives you a better picture of how things work. Right? Not only did they speak about animals and things like that, they spoke about the water, the marine life, all of that. Okay? All of that is part and parcel of your forest. They even mentioned ecotourism. That it contributes, it's $1 billion business for them. Yeah?
44 billion.
44 billion was the export of wood. So that's how large this market is. Right? What are we into? What are we not into? Where are the possible opportunities that we've got?
We've been working throughout the forest on the HLS team, improving business facilities, access requirements throughout the forest, ranging from Commonwealth to Berry Road and Chingford Hub, through to access trails to Collar Water and High Beach. A key part of the works at Collar Water is the completion of a new boardwalk, which is undertaken by volunteers and scouts, wetland planting and habitat preparation will improve the overall biodiversity and allow interaction between users and the water as a whole.
The construction research and transfer Scout project. We're trying to promote access for all. I'm going to put the last one here to try and bring people closer to nature. Scouts are going to learn a lot of skills through doing this. There's also a great social occasion, bringing people together from all over the country and giving them a chance to really make a difference.
Well, we've been thrilled to be involved with this project. 24 years now, the SCOPE project, and our role really is to organise all of these conservation activities, and it's great fun.
So we've gained two things, I think, from this project. The first thing is to get young practical skills in conservation by working with people like Ashrams themselves, or busy public.
A choice, basically. So they can either walk along the route around, stand on the normal path, or they can actually cross the water by going across the boardwalk. Well, other works that have been going on, obviously we've got a better surface pathway around, which is easier access for people. We've made habitat improvements, all done by our tools.
Will people enjoy this? Definitely. Do you honestly think the ducks are going to enjoy more people walking around their place? So it's you balancing out, or you deciding effectively how much of a negative impact you're going to have on the environment. And they accept it. It's not that there's going to be no impact on the environment, no significant impact. That's what they said. So that
level of significance is tested by
subjective, isn't it? And then this, so that we are fully aware.
We know how biomass works. Biomass energy is about using organic material as an energy source. Biomass can be natural, being produced without human interaction, residual, byproducts or waste from farming, such as olive pits, canned grain stalks, or wine grain remains, or resulting from energy crops. Wood is the most commonly used material. Splinters, pellets, sawdust. This can be used to generate heat and hot water. Biomass is thrown into the burners, burned, and then it heats the water. You can convert this chemical gas burners into a biomass one relatively easily. For heating, the most efficient type is thermal cooling. Alternatively, you can use radiators. At times, it is used to generate electricity. It consists of a storage area from which the material falls into the furnace and heats the water, traveling through the conduits. This turns extra steam, and the steam goes to the turbine. It is connected to a generator and produces electricity. The steam goes to a condenser that chills it, turning it into water, so that the process can start again. Its applications are mainly thermal energy, and also electrical energy, which uses a more complex process to refine plasmas. It is 100% renewable. It reduces the use of fossil fuel, helping to reduce carbon footprints. It creates employment and development in rural areas. Materials from other citizens are refused, which results in recycling and waste disposal. It produces more than energy on fuel supply. Currently, we can say there is reliable technology at competitive costs. It is top competitive to natural gas and petroleum byproducts. Did you know that in the 70s, biomass was a traditional fuel source? It has only been in the last few decades that has been replaced by fossil fuels. A medium-sized biomass plant can save 200,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year compared to that emitted by a coal-fired power station. The resulting ashes can be used as agricultural fertilizers.
So that is biomass. Okay, so that we're fully aware of that. Okay, let's move on. Employees will probably take a look at a couple more pages, maybe then take a small break and then push on again. Employees, our employees are our greatest assets. A lot of companies like saying that. Try going to the management and asking for a raise. And then they'll tell you our biggest liability. They add a huge amount of value to Wood. They work together as a team to ensure Wood runs efficiently and effectively. We have a diverse group of employees. Some of our best lumberjacks have worked with us for over 30 years. So maybe I charge pretty good. Or we are in regions where they cannot find any other employment. Could be one of those. The work is hard, but they enjoy the communal spirit and work ethic, encouraged by work. Lumberjacks work in small groups in remote areas, sometimes camping for several weeks. They are happy to continue this work, even though it can be difficult and dangerous. Do we actually see future generations doing the same work? Would they be happy to do this, or would they be looking at other options? Would they want to be lumberjacks, or would they want to get education, look at alternate aspects? If they do so, we face a problem. Shortage in terms of a workforce. Okay, which is a very real possibility, because with such a lot of technology and access to this technology, these youngsters wouldn't really want to say, okay, our ultimate aim is to become a lumberjack. They'll have other dreams. They start moving out of this community. Who's going to do the job next? You'll have an aging group of lumberjacks, yeah, which doesn't seem like a good option when you look at health and safety. What encourages safe working practices and training? We have been improving our gender balance, although there are still too few women working in the forests. We are pleased that we now have a number of female senior employees and directors. So they are looking at improving the gender balance, but there's an interesting part here. What encourages safe working practices and training? As far as what is concerned, this should be a must. It's not something they should encourage. It should be an absolute necessity. Okay, because their training can mean the difference between life and death. If they are going to be camping in remote locations for days at a time, if they are poorly trained and there is an emergency, they'll not know what to do. This also puts into focus technology. What's our mechanism of keeping track of these groups of lumberjacks who are camping for weeks at a time, cutting down trees? How do we get in touch with them? Because maybe these forests don't have connectivity. So how do we actually connect with them? It's not too difficult. If you can mark trees out using GPS, keeping track of your lumberjacks, I don't think is too difficult. Okay, but are we using this technology? Are we keeping track of them? Are we really committed to their safety? Okay. Has the necessary training been given to them in the event of an emergency? What's the procedure that they follow? There's no point waiting for it to happen to then figure out, okay, this is what we need to do. This type of plan needs to already be in place. Risk management should be dealing with that. Okay. And we'll see it on the page of risks. Health and safety is there. Customer elements. Being aware of our customers' needs has played a large part in our steady growth over the last few years. We value our customers and work hard at understanding their needs. So changing customer needs. A lot of the younger generations, they don't like wood-based products. You look at the trend, it's a social change that's taking place. You see a lot of glass tables, right? Metal-based furniture. Plastic rather than wood. Okay? Even the frames that we've used in our buildings, it's aluminium and not wood. Traditionally, it would all have been wood. You have concrete frames that are being used, door frames and window frames rather than wood. So things are changing. Part of it is the cost, part of it, well, people just don't prefer it anymore. Okay? The major influencer is, of course, the cost. The wood is very, very expensive. Our customers support sustainable forestry and are proud of our accredited status. We listened to our customers when they said that they wanted to protect the environment, and they have repaid us with their loyalty. Our customer base has increased over the past few years, or last few years, as they know we work to create value for them. We seek to generate value in all aspects of our business while continuing to offer excellent quality. Offering excellent quality and giving value to our customers. If you want to give excellent quality, have all the accreditations and all of that, chances are you push up the price. Keep pushing up the price, will customers keep buying? There is a limit that they will pay. They're not going to say, oh, it's a sustainably sourced product, so I'm willing to pay 10 times the normal price. No, it's not going to happen. In an ideal world, it should, but practically it won't. Why are we moving to things like aluminium alloys? Customer care and satisfaction. We opened a customer care department to respond to customer queries and complaints quickly. Its focus is to respond to customer queries and complaints within an agreed time frame, which depends on the complexity of the query. We are proud that we have responded to 97.5% of the queries within the agreed time frame. I've got two questions. One, what is this agreed time frame? Is it 24 hours? Is it a month? We don't know. What happened to the other 2.5%? I know you might be thinking, what is wrong with this fellow? 97.5 is good. Why is he bothering about the 2.5? Well, isn't that what Kaizen has taught us? Continuous improvement. Okay? So our focus would be to ensure that we've met 100% of the queries. So what happened to the other 2.5%? Is it that we didn't meet it during the agreed time frame, or did we not answer those queries at all? Because some of these queries can be very uncomfortable queries on the impact on wildlife, environment, and we don't know what to say, so we keep quiet. And what do? We go over and say 97.5%, we did it on time.
That query is quite affect our share price.
Of course, definitely. And those might be the problematic ones, because you have these pressure groups as well. What if those are queries raised by pressure groups and you don't answer them? Good luck.
How many queries are also there?
Exactly. How many queries? Percentage is very nice. Now, for example, say 80% has passed. I might have done it 4 passed. You can't compare that against another class which had 200 students. So percentage is always again something which you can play around with a little, right? The number of repeat queries has fallen considerably as a result of this initiative. So number of repeat queries have reduced, which is good. Okay, but it doesn't say that the number of repeat queries have disappeared altogether. So some of the answers we are giving might just be rubbish. Just to ensure in the time frame we say something, we go and say something. They are not clear, so they come and ask you again. And again within the time frame you go and say that, okay, say something. Still not clear. Come back again. Could be happening. Okay, we'll take 10 minutes. Come back and run through this. Before I run through the risks, I'll just spend a bit of time on the financial statements, purely because Oh, this is not how I'm supposed to be looking at it, but okay, I'll just show you this. All this is going to be put on the portal today so that you can access it. Everything done. Okay? So they are the ones who not. So this will include the analysis of what percentage changes in revenues, all the whole thing, unrealized gains, operating profit margins, capital employed. There's a description of it, and it also has data. Okay, so everything should be here. Should be very useful analysis for you to go through. I think if you read this once, you'd have most of the information there. So that it's sorted. 10 minutes, we come back and we'll quickly look at that. Okay?
Email for the email.
How do you know? If I enter this, I might make a mistake.
Log this. Leader of leaders for মেইল করে দাও সেটা আমার ভাই আমার সিনিয়র তো নাই এখন সেট করবে তো কাগজটা মাত্র পাইলাম দেখি সে কম করে দিবে আগামী আজকে
সবাই আসতে পারে
Once it's done. Right. Just a small request before all of you leave. Those of you who have not received the email with the login details, your name and your email, right, before you leave. It's only if you have not received the login information, okay, which should have been a couple of days ago. Right? I'll get them to work on it overnight, so by tomorrow you should have the information. So, which will be necessary tomorrow because we'll have to work on the system tomorrow. So, some of you have already given me your names and email addresses. Those of you who haven't, let's just do that before you go. Right, the financial statements. Starting with what, which is pages 19, 20, 21. And then we've got tals, which is right at the end, the last couple of pages. Okay. Taking this information into consideration, here's what we've got. And I'll just share this with you so you don't have to worry about frantically putting this down. 2014, 14% of our revenue came from consultancy, 86 from standing trees. 2015, it's 16 and 84. So more revenue coming from consultancy. In fact, the consultancy revenue is growing, whereas revenue from standing trees dropping. So the real reason for drop in revenue is standing trees. You have not received the email, but you should have it from last time. So. Right. You take gross profit. 14% of our gross profit came from consultancy. This year it's 18%. Okay. Gross profit margin. You take consultancy services, there's a slight drop, 0.5%. You take standing trees, there's a much larger drop, from 73.4 to 67.7. Okay, GP margin is dropping. Overall, the GP margin has fallen from 73.8 to 69%. And the main culprit is standing trees. So let's see, revenue with standing trees is dropping, so is our margin. So revenues are dropping whereas cost is increasing, which is a problem. There's a bigger problem there. Okay, if revenue was falling and GP margin was constant, at least we could say that expenses are falling at the same rate. That's not happening, which might indicate higher fixed costs. If we are spending on any research and things like that, that probably also goes into our cost of sales, right? But at the moment we're doing is assuming, okay, coming up with just random excuses. Revenue growth wise, it's overall 9% drop. Standing trees, it's 11% drop, whereas consultancy services up by 5%. Okay. So given you the individual changes there for you to look at, let's move on. When you are writing about, let's say, any question that they give you, you can easily, if you are to talk about revenue, you could say, look, revenue has fallen by this percentage. Or if it is about the forestry part of it and you're talking about trees and revenue from that, you can say, oh, look, revenue from the trees part of it has fallen by what, 11%? Have an idea. Have an idea. Important things, have an idea. Right? We know consultancy revenue has gone up by 5%. We know revenue has dropped by 11%. Use that. So somewhere in your answers, if they say, look, there's a higher chance of us getting more consultancy, that's good because last year our consultancy revenue grew by 5% and the profit margin on it is 70 something percent, 75%. That shows you're using the pre-C. Okay, so I'm not telling you memorize word to word. I'd appreciate if you can, before you go, just type it out on the Excel because I can make a mistake in seconds. So yes, that's better. So we look at other little things. Let's see. Yeah, GP margin or gross profit as a percentage has fallen from last year to this year, 8618 to 7325, but unrealized gain has gone up. The unrealized gain has actually increased. And I'd like to very, very quickly take you to this bit. The unrealized gain that you see here, 1108, is what has gone into our financial statements this year, the 1108. Last year it was 752, this year it's 1108. 47% increase. So, if this is what's happening, look at this. I might need to. Land is shown at fair value as determined by independent valuers. Standing forests are defined and reported as biological assets, which should be that column. Okay, standing forests. The biological assets are evaluated and reported at fair value after deduction of estimated costs by independent third-party expert. Once the plantations have been successfully established, fair value of standing forests is calculated as the present value of anticipated future cash flows from the assets. Subjective. Present value of future cash flows that you get from the assets. This is heavily subjective, which basically means this 1108 that you see here is very subjective. Could there be some manipulation? Could there be some inaccurate forecasting? Well, definitely. Okay. This also increases if you take longer to fell your trees. Longer the trees are left uncut, the more the value goes up now. Could there be a slowdown in terms of you cutting down trees and selling it? So you have a gain here, unrealized. If you had cut it down, it would have gone into revenue and your gross profit. This is why earlier on I was asking you, have you been overly conscious about the environment and all of this and made shareholders suffer? Because had we cut down more trees, our profit, our realized profit would have been higher, our revenue would have been higher, instead of the unrealized gain. Or did we do this to just maintain that sustainability tag? Which means, see, if you are a net planter of trees, if you didn't plant trees, you can't cut down the existing ones either. That problem is also there. So what's going on? You should have some information at the exam on this. Something. At least one of the 5 variants should have this. See, it's like this. You saw the video. There are people tagging trees, there are people maintaining the forest. That's not going to disappear whether you cut less trees or cut more trees. Still there. The cost of you paying your lumberjacks, unless you have some part-time workers and things like that, that's still there. So those costs are still there, regardless of you not cutting down the trees. So we seem to have a lot of fixed costs there. Definitely it's going to hit us. Definitely it will hit us. Okay. Maybe this is something that is done practically if you look at it, because construction industry is not picking as much and all of that. Maybe that's why we had to slow it down a little. But somewhere in the material they did mention shortage of wood meant that prices increased and all that. So why didn't we actually supply at that point? So unrealized gains going up seem to tell us that. Maybe we slowed down in terms of cutting down the trees. Had we cut more trees down, profits, or well, at least revenue would have been higher, gross profit would have been higher, the realized profit part would have been higher. Operating profit is down by 18%, interest up by 9%. Not good. Your interest cover drops. Is it terrible? Is it bad? It's not. The minimum interest cover that most industry experts would look for is about 3 times. At least 3 times. Yeah, okay in that sense. Capital employed, I've just shown you the values. Your operating profit margin has dropped from 53.4 to 48.1. ROCE is down from 12.8 to 10.1.
In the tablet, we have to take the component of differential reserve also.
Yes. Yes. So equity of 43417.
Plus the long one there.
Yeah. So overall, looking at what has happened to what, they are far from stabilizing. They are going down the drain. It's decreasing. Performance is dropping. Whereas chairman mentioned somewhere, oh, we've stabilized and things like that, which is absolute rubbish. Comments for you to go through. This you can look at, including the unrealized gains. Darrell, revenue drop of 7%. So they are reducing as well. So then, could this be done deliberately by these forestry companies, just to jack up prices? Just like what they were trying with oil prices as well, try and curtail supply to increase prices. Maybe they're trying that. But at least when they do that, margins, they wouldn't want their gross profit margin to suffer, which is suffering. You take revenue, it's down by 7%. Our revenue from felling trees, standing trees, how much was it? Down by? 11. Overall, it's 9% drop. Okay? 11%. We take unrealized gains. Unrealized gains are down. From last year to this year, it's down. Ours went in the opposite direction. Our unrealized gains increasing. They are keeping trees for longer. Admin expenses have reduced. If you take Darrell.
The profitability is very low compared to the old stock. GP ratio is around 48%. But in case of 2, it's around 68%.
Yeah. Overall, it's about 68%. You take admin expenses are reducing. Forestry operating expenses reducing. Look at ours.
8%.
Going in the other direction.
You could manage that expense properly, but you could respond immediately.
So ours the costs aren't reducing with our revenue reduction. So maybe Darrell's method of operation is a little different. Maybe they have what should we say, contract workers or part-time employees. Yeah. So you've got that, and you take even admin. Seems like that's the structure that they're using. We seem to be a little different the way we operate. But then information we don't have. For example, Darrell's labor turnover. We know some of our lumberjacks work for us for 30 years. Darrell, we have no idea. Maybe because of this, their people don't stay with them. So I can't just say that Darrell is very good, we are very bad. Okay? Depends on the overall success. Look at ROCE. Worse than us? 10 to 8.3. Where are we? 12 to 10. We're better. Operating profit margin, we're better.
What are price may be decreasing? Price of we can go up. Because here revenue decreased 7%. The cost of sale decreased only 2%.
That's the problem. Now we could go with those type of assumptions, but in the articles or in the notes they say that price increased. Yeah. So this is the conflicting nature of information we have, and either the chairman was drunk when he made those statements, because a lot of things the guy said.
The statement of 2020 has been released earlier.
A lot of things that he has said just don't make sense. If we go with his statements, none of these statements can be explained.
I think the statement was starting with 2014, the German statement. Is he reading the 2014?
So again, another question could be on how valid the chairman's statements are, because a lot of them seem to be.
Then
the senior finance manager, what he will do? I mean, having this contradiction between these two, initial statement versus the chairman's statement, what the senior finance manager will do? Should know.
Yeah. If he lies, actually.
If the chairman's lying, it depends on who's asking you for the report.
One question may be actually the sources. It seems that they usually making the marketing. So maybe chairman's statement also is
trying to create the market.
Invite investment in the sector.
But somewhere in the what should I say? In terms of how they run their business, they say that they are transparent. There's integrity. There's objectivity. Stop me.
I believe the chairman's statement depend on 2014, not 15, not 15. He is not focused on 2014. He can put that. I mean, they are doing 2015, not about 2015.
He said that last year. Last year. If we read the last year and the report is about the last year. How can
Last year is just from last year. Always from last year. No. He said 2014 we came back to profit. 2014 they came back to profit. 2015 is a strategic. The chairman's statement is for 14. It is not for 15. He nowadays never does that. He also taking.
It starts off page 7 actually. It says in 2009 company focused on stabilizing. Okay. Company has set its sights on achieving long-term stable returns, so that's fine. Company continued to strengthen its position in the markets, regions where it operates, fine. Volatility in the US dollar against yen dollar caused us some problems over the last year. There is hope that the economic uncertainties that led to this will settle down. So over the last year would mean
2014. 13 and 14 and focus on 2015. Is sometimes focus on 2015. But when it doesn't work,
what's our financial year end?
September.
So when you say last year,
he's given this statement on October. The report is in October.
it should be the last 12 months. So company has, and generally in an annual report, chairman's statement will be for the current year. It wouldn't focus on 14 and 13.
That's the proper governance. There is not governance in annual report.
Ideally, yeah.
There is no room for certain similar adoptions. So they get into tree. Listed company and chairman statement comes together with the annual report.
Yeah. So I think it's the chairman's statements that's quite misleading.
He had also highlighted about the Harvard students in 2014.
Chairman is a PhD and MBA.
What? So, what was the, Harvard students in 2015?
Convention.
There is also mentioned that after Amber, there was like maybe
So okay, let's move on from that. Otherwise we're going to be arguing about the chairman's statements for a long time. These next couple of pages, 15 and 16, okay, not 2015, 2016, pages 15 and 16 are very important for a couple of reasons. One, it talks about the risks and so on that the company faces, and we'll need to see whether they've identified all the risks. mitigation approaches need to be looked at. And the second thing I can tell you is this list is not exhaustive. It is not something which will ensure that all the possible factors have been considered. There are more risks. Okay? There are more risks which we should possibly focus on. Fluctuating demand. Wood's principal activities rely on demand for timber, which is the basic raw material used in many industries. Some of our customers operate in volatile and cyclical industries. For example, building industry buys significant quantities of timber and timber-based products. The building industry can be affected significantly by movements in economic indicators such as interest rates, availability of credit, property market. Selling prices fall in response to declining demand for timber. What can reduce production in response, because this is there is very little point in selling timber when prices are low. However, there are economies of scale associated with operating at higher capacities, and so we can suffer increasing costs when we manage output in this way. This is a perfect excuse for what has happened. This is a perfect excuse for what has happened. But it completely contradicts what the chairman said. Okay? This will explain perfectly what has happened between 14 and 15. Have our costs increased? Yes, they have. Has our revenue dropped? Yes, it has. But has our unrealized gain gone up because we're delaying felling of timber? Yes, it has. The company regularly reviews the movement in market prices, seeks to obtain the best value for the company's products from existing and new customers. This also shows that if we are still into this fluctuating demand, we are yet to explore other sources of demand. The ones that are really picking up. Packaging, right? Biomass. Those are the ones that are picking up. Why aren't we into those? Why are we so worried about construction and only construction? International business. Many countries import large quantities of timber and their economies can further affect demand. Apart from fluctuations in their economies, our ability to export to particular markets can be affected by disputes, tariffs, imports, restrictions, and so on. So that's another risk we face. Because, for example, changes in government, then they have closer ties with certain countries, not others. They restrict imports from certain countries. It's a problem. Or overseas customers, the governments in their countries impose new policies. They come up with new policies. So they want to get into sustainable forestry. Which long-term impact on us? Then they don't need to import wood from us. It'll take time, but it's still a risk. Like what's happening in China now. They're getting into sustainable forestry management. It'll take a long, long time for them to, of course, be able to supply their own wood. But eventually that should happen. Okay? So not only are we dependent on our economy, we are dependent on other economies. Right? The larger ones, like if you take reality, US, UK, Europe hasn't picked up. It hasn't picked up to the levels that they were at one particular point. What are the growth rates in Europe like? If it's in Asia, we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8%. Europe? 1 to 2%. What about the demand for housing then? What about the demand for wood then? That's the problem. They've got an aging population. Their growth is not that high. Even the US, it's not growing as fast as they expected. So all this contributes to our demand. Okay? exchange rate fluctuations. The company is exposed to foreign exchange risk. Output is priced in US dollars, which can be volatile against the M dollar. What is able to utilize financial instruments to hedge against adverse currency movements? There is no guarantee that it will be possible to hedge against a particular change in an acceptable way, or that any attempt to hedge would be successful. Of course, hedging, there's no guarantee it will be successful, but what is able to utilize financial instruments? It's available. Do they say that they're utilizing it? No. So maybe we aren't hedging. That's why there was a statement that's made, or we hope things will be okay. Right? They are able to utilize hedging techniques, but whether they are actually utilizing it, we don't know. A question could specifically say, okay, recommend different methods of mitigating this foreign exchange risk. Employee safety. Forestry workers are highly skilled. Harvesting timber in a safe and efficient manner requires training and experience. Working in forests can be difficult and dangerous, and we provide advanced safety training to all our lumberjacks. We make sure we have the most advanced safety equipment available for the workforce. So we do provide advanced, we do provide the most up-to-date equipment. Okay? That is what they seem to say. However, there is the risk that serious accidents may occur in remote areas, which could be serious. We are insured for the accidents. So this is a transfer of risks. If you take the TARA framework, we transfer it in terms of insurance. We manage to transfer the risk. But okay, what if something goes wrong?
Remote area.
In a remote area, if something goes wrong, okay, we are insured, fine. But
They don't have any equipment to just contingency plan.
What is the contingency plan? Have we got that in place? Otherwise, it can be a PR nightmare. It can be terrible. Your reputation is gone. Everything revolves around your reputation. Right? There has to be some type of communication mechanism with these guys. We can't just say, look, they are in remote areas. There's a risk that serious accidents may occur, and not do anything about it. That procedure has to be in place.
I believe there are some rules like do's and don'ts. Don'ts were certified by the FSCM. So they have to ensure that they not show any negligence and they have to be compliant with all the requirements.
See, again, those are, let's say, minimum requirement to meet. Are we going over and above that to ensure employee safety? Having certain standards. Yeah, there will be certain procedures, certain standards that are there. But accidents in this industry, there's a very high risk it can happen. Okay, so if that is the case, for example, let's say there's heavy snow and you're sending your lumberjacks into mountainous area. Right? You've got them, all their safety procedures, everything there. Or do you look at the other extreme and say, look, okay, hold on, the risk is too high, let's not do this. Let's wait for a while. So you're foregoing sometimes a bit of revenue for safety. So where do we stand in terms of that? Because we talk so highly about employee safety, employee involvement, all of that. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Okay? And in terms of the procedures that we follow, are we just barely meeting minimum the legal requirements, or have we gone over and above that? So maybe there might be minimum communication that is set by the industry to say every 6 hours you check in. Are we doing something about that? Because 6 hours is a very long time. In 6 hours, person can be dead, or freezing weather can be frozen. Are we looking at something? Are we looking at monitoring them even closer?
Communication device.
It might sound quite silly, but if you're tracking them using GPS, could you be monitoring these remote locations through cameras or something like that? Okay. Technology is so advanced that you look at technology to help you out. Okay, so rather than just meeting the minimum requirements. Labor relations. Our forestry workers are unionized. There is an annual negotiation cycle for determining pay and working conditions. The involvement of the union tends to ensure that all companies in the industry pay broadly similar rates. So Darrell asks everyone should be paying pretty similar rates. Production will be affected in the event of that an agreement cannot be reached with union negotiations. It will be difficult to locate suitable temporary staff during a strike, and the logistics of timber production would make industrial action such as picketing vehicle entrances highly effective.
Is that there is no continuity?
You don't have an option out here. It's a very high risk. I would say unions would fall into this category of maybe key player, Mendelow's matrix. And if things go wrong, if we can't negotiate with them, come to a proper agreement, we don't have a backup. Because hiring temporary workers doesn't seem possible. Maybe they don't have the skills, maybe then we need to sit and train them, we need to do all that, which is difficult, and our workers can block them. Access of vehicles. If you can cut down the trees, but vehicles can't go to transport it, what's the use? Trees are just lying there. And mind you, when it comes to processing of trees, depending on the seasons, they have a specified number of days. If it's in summer, they need to process it within a certain time period. If it's during winter, they have a different time period. Because the quality of the wood deteriorates after you've cut it. If you don't process it, the quality of the wood deteriorates. So you cut the tree down. If you can't transport it, you're killing value. Physical risks. Wood may experience the impact of physical risks associated with forest assets such as fire, insect infestation, wind blow in extreme weather. Wood's forests are managed or insured as appropriate in a manner to mitigate these. Advice on insect infestation is taken from Forestry Authority. So insect infestation is something that I don't think you can insure against. Yeah. So you take advice from these guys about how to manage it, but not insured. Fire, extreme weather, yeah, insuring is possible, right? But do these things happen? Fires? But this thing happen? Usually happens. So probability wise, there's a high probability of it happening. Okay, but you need to manage it. So how you plant your next group of trees or plants or whatever, that helps. With wind blow, you need to be prepared so that you can do some replanting. Tax. Changes in tax and grant regimes governing forestry and forestry would have an adverse effect on number of customers interested in investing in forestry and planting. Changes in certain tax and grant regimes may adversely affect wood's financial performance. Now, by the looks of things, there don't seem to be taxes for wood. So if they suddenly decide, no, they're not going to make it tax-free, our situation's worse. Worse due to a couple of reasons. One, our profit after tax will reduce. Two, the clients who want us to manage their forests, they might not want to keep forests anymore. It's an investment. They might say, look, we don't want this anymore, we're going to dispose of the forests, which is another problem for us. That's a risk that is there. But is it a high probability of it happening? Not really. Because all these governments want more forests. So, very low probability of it happening. Are these all the risks? This cover all the risks. What about the risk of your certifications? Right? That's a hint. There's more. Okay? So, one of your tasks, let's see, since I'm not going to be giving you any other homework, think of the other risks that you've got. What are the other risks we face?
We are doing MLT forest. Then people are going there and
Homework. So, other risks that we face. Okay, that's something to look at. Right, I'm going to rush through this one. The board of directors, otherwise we're going to be here till about 12 o'clock. Let's see. Peter, chief executive, does he have knowledge? Has he worked in the industry before? Yeah. Yep, extensive knowledge of the industry. 30 years. Joined the board as forestry director 2008, became CEO in 2012. So he's been a director for 7 years. Yeah. Ibrahim, forestry director since 2013. Previously forestry manager. So does he have knowledge of the industry? Yes. Marcus?
Ibrahim is from Nigeria. Is it potentially an issue for the countries?
There's only one downside to it, which I'll discuss it now then. Ethics. Nigeria is not exactly known to be one of the most ethical and, yeah. So there is that risk that he goes down that road. Maybe we are in a position where we are going to lose an accreditation or we don't get an accreditation, and to do that, he gives someone a gift. What do we do? It's outright wrong. Right? It's unethical, and we need to stick with that. Okay? But he's been with us for a couple of years, and they do say number of prestigious roles in the forestry trade. Okay? So there is a risk there. There is a risk. I'm not saying no, but even if something slightly wrong is being done, under ethical guidelines, you need to specifically mention, look, that's not right. Okay? Marcus, finance director, professionally qualified accountant, Bachelor of Arts, joined the board in 2008. 7 years again. Okay, and been in the industry. And where in the industry? Sweden, which is one of the videos that you watched. Okay. Sarah, marketing director, degree in marketing, previously worked for a major US company, rising to a senior managerial position, joined as marketing director in 2014, just been around for a couple of years now, probably just a year. HR director, fellow of Marlin Institute of Personnel and Development, served in a variety of different entities, joined Wood Board in 2013, so 2 years with us. Doesn't mean that she's been in this industry. our chairman, non-executive chairman, who is driving us nuts with his statements. Anton, doctorate in forestry management, master in business administration, senior manager in forestry management group in Siberia, became a director 2008, retired in 2014, and Watts board was delighted to welcome such a prestigious person to serve as a non-executive chair. So it comes with a lot of hype. It also confuses us no end. Respected business person in Marland, chairs both the audit and remuneration committees. Should the chairman be? No. Audit committee, not right. Yeah. Remuneration again, problem. Non-executive director, you have Stuart. Since 2012, so it's just 3 years, worked in the timber industry for 15 years in Canada. Another video that we saw. So, worked as a lumberjack, safety officer, and for most of his time. So he knows a thing or two about the industry, knows a thing or two about lumberjacks, and knows this safety and things like that, right? Kai Ling, you have non-executive director, appointed in 2013, again 2 years. Also has experience in the timber trade, worked in one of China's largest building companies, one of our customers. Okay, so we're looking at our customers. I'm not saying that the director worked for a customer, but saying that knows the customer side of things there. Member of Health and Safety Committee and the Nominations Committee. Okay, fine. Leanne, been in the board since 2012, also a non-executive director of a major Croatian sawmill. Has had a long and distinguished association with the company, having served as a senior. The last 2 directors, can their independence be compromised? Last 2.
They don't have experience exactly.
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be in the same industry, but
They are the customer.
exactly that seems to be a problem. Because if you take Leanne, served as a senior purchasing manager for 15 years. What if, I'm just saying, what if she was buying wood from us? Is she really independent? What if was also buying wood from us? So there is that risk. There is that risk. Yeah. Okay. How many members in our audit committee?
2.
Is that sufficient? Remunerations committee. 3. Chairman, Stuart, and we have Leanne.
Actually, director conversation. Actually,
Liam.
Maybe.
Maybe the HR person can sit on it, but of course can't vote. But maybe the person can be involved. The last, okay, nominations committee. 2. Another committee, which is not mandatory in terms of the corporate governance part of it. But, health and safety. Okay, that's a purely voluntary thing that they're doing, so you can't find fault in that.
Audit committee has no finance person.
Back of, yeah.
Chairman is the finance person.
the chairman is MBA. Is that enough?
No. Needs to have proper finance background, which is lacking. So corporate governance-wise, they have a few issues. Okay, and including the board balance, 5 executive, 4 non-executive. Chairman chairing some of these committees is a problem. The board composition, I just mentioned that, but most of it is not an issue, except the fact that we probably have succession planning to look at in terms of the CEO. CEO has been with us for what, 7 years now? NED's independence with Liang and Ling, the two of them, individual decisions. All of this. So this is something that
non-executive there should be 5, including chairman or including chairman? Excluding chairman. So there is a gap of 2.
At least you need to have 50-50, at least, including the chairman. This is
comply or explain?
This committee is not there.
There's no risk committee. There's no risk committee. But they do have a health and safety which they brought in. But it's not the same role. It's not the same role. So again, this one I will upload it almost immediately before I walk out today. So you will have access to that. Because I'm expecting you to have read through these 2 pages, page 22 and 23, the regulatory bodies, which is FSCM and the whole 10 principles and all of that, which is pretty much routine, but just read through it at least once so that you have an idea about it and you can use it in your answers. Right. Couple of articles, we'll quickly finish this off so that we're done. Interview with Peter, CEO of Wood. Why is investment in forestry so tax efficient? There is no income tax on harvested timber and no capital gains tax on the growth in the value of the tree. Investment will also qualify for tax relief, inheritance tax, 2 years after 2 years of ownership. So if taxation is managed properly, there is no tax payable on the investment or income from felling the trees. So if you own the forest for at least 2 years, effectively you pay no taxes. That doesn't mean that for consultancy and associated industries like paper manufacture there is no tax, but that part gets hidden here. What are the main markets for timber? Forest owners can benefit from a variety of markets. Main markets: construction, packaging, fencing. Fencing is where you get the grounds. Panel board, paper, biomass for energy and heat. This last market has led to new competition for the least valuable part of the tree and at least the value of the whole tree to timber purchasers. But are we into it? Doesn't seem like it. World Timber Index indicates that timber prices are volatile. Is there an issue in considering an investment in forestry? Benefit of forestry is that when prices drop, there is no need to harvest. Value is stored in the trees while they mature, and the trees continue to grow both in volume and in value. There is generally a window of 5 to 15 years in which a crop can be harvested, which means that the volatility in timber prices can be exploited to the landowner's advantage, which is probably what we didn't harvest because prices were volatile. So I'm going completely against Chairman's statement. Is an investment liquid or illiquid? There is an active market for forest properties which sees good properties sold quickly. Having said that, forestry is the same as any other property. It is potentially illiquid as there is no perfect established market. The trees continue to grow in volume should a property remain unsold. So is it something that you can immediately dispose of and get your money back? Not really, unless you find another buyer who wants a forest. Okay? Who manages the forests? Experienced local managers. They provide ongoing budgets for the development of the forest, which are reviewed by Marland and amended as necessary in order to ensure that the investment achieves the best possible return. It is important that the forest is managed with trees being thinned out and dangerous trees removed. Replanting also must be planned to maintain a sustainable forest, which we saw in the videos that happening, and so that's nothing new for us. Okay. How is forest asset valued? By taking into account location, age, quality of the crop, and the state of the infrastructure, in particular access to the forest. Value can be ascertained by market evidence and calculating on a discounted cash flow basis. Very, very subjective method of coming up with the value. Okay. Why is forestry regarded as an inflation hedge? There's a limited supply which is constrained by fixed areas of productive forests in Europe. There is a diverse spectrum of wood-based products that permeate the global economy and ensure demand is robust. So, effectively, your crop should generally grow in real terms. You have to put it in very, very simple terms. It should grow in real terms. Okay? It's not a situation where in real terms your value falls. It's a situation where in real terms your value increases. Okay? What type of tree is best to invest in? Silica spruce produces the greatest volume of timber in the shortest time. It has a 30 to 45 year rotation and has the greatest diversity of end users. Once established, SS grows at about 6% per annum. So our dependence on this would be growing because of its shorter turnaround time. What are the main risks of an investment in forestry? Main risks are fire and wind load. These are insured against. There is currently no insurance cover for pests and disease. But trees with relatively short rotation, such as SS, are less than trees with lifespan. Trees with lifespan of